Hello, and welcome to the Confidence Academy podcast. My name is Lily Badcock, and I am a transformational confidence coach helping you to thrive in spite of anxiety. Each week, I will be sharing interviews with guest experts from around the world who have lived through their own experiences and who now help others to do the same. I will also be sharing the tangible steps you can take to start managing your own anxiety. It's my aim to reach as many people as possible with the message that no matter what you're going through, no matter what your struggle may be, there is hope, and there is a way to create an amazing life for yourself. The incredible people I've been blessed to interview are walking, talking examples of how this is possible, and I truly hope you will find their stories inspiring, uplifting, and motivational. The conversations are very open and candid, and occasionally may include some adult language, so please take care when listening around little ones or grab some headphones. This podcast series is brought to you in association with Lily Badcock Confidence Coaching, offering private and group coaching to help you thrive in spite of anxiety. If you're ready to ditch the stress and frustration of battling anxiety every day, why not visit www.lilybadcock.com to see how I can help. There are free resources available to download and start using straight away, plus the option to sign up for ongoing coaching if you wish. Before we dive in, don't forget to leave a review for us on iTunes and to check out the links in the podcast notes to the free resources we have available for you. But for now, let's get you on your way to living your epic life anxiety-free. Because remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. Hi guys, welcome back to the Confidence Academy podcast, and today I am joined by the gorgeous Cheryl Mercer. Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you very much, Lily, for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on the call with you.
You are so welcome. And so Cheryl is bringing us a different spin on the Confidence Academy podcast this week. So if you're a fan of the show and if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that often I always interview people who have experienced anxiety for themselves, but more often than not, the guests are people who feel like they have almost been through the worst of it and then come to a point where now they feel like they can help others. And it's brilliant and it's awesome and it's super inspiring, and I love having those guests on. But I did want to introduce this element of people sharing their stories who still feel like they're really in the thick of it. And Cheryl, that's how you would describe your current situation. Am I right?
That's right, Lily. Basically what actually happened was it's back in September 2014 that anxiety came knocking on my door. I think I'd always had it, but it was a catalytic thing that had actually happened. I was in a very dark place. I'd ended a long-term relationship and moved back home and wanted to start the next chapter of my life. But unfortunately, Ben and Jerry's was the only man in my life at that moment in time and piled on quite a lot of weight. So what I did was I employed a personal trainer, and over a course of 8 months, beasted myself in the gym, which I don't agree to anybody doing, but I went from a size 22 down to a size 12 and shed 5 stone in weight, felt on top of the world, thought that's it, I've beaten all my demons with regards to my weight and I've beaten my demons with everything else. I then shortly moved into a rented flat, and I wanted everything to be perfect. When friends came round, I wanted it to be just so. So I ended up spending quite a lot on credit cards. Over the course of the next few months, with the newfound body and the new flat, credit card city and shopping were my main sort of ways of dealing with anything that was going on in my life. And a few times family mentioned, you need to slow down, are you sure you've got enough money? And I was like, yeah, everything's okay, it's all right. But then kind of 6 months on, I started to realise that everything wasn't okay, and had a bit of a bombshell when I opened the credit card statement and thought, this has gone way over my head. So plucking up the courage to go back to my family and said, actually, I've made a mistake. can I have some help? With the amount of money, we're talking thousands of pounds. It wasn't just a one-hit wonder. It was loads of hits all in one go. The only option that I had was to get in contact with a debt charity. It took me quite a while to pluck up the courage to contact them. I eventually did. For anybody who's actually going through any monetary problems and needs help, I would recommend getting in touch with the Step Charity. They really helped me. They've got a free phone number, whether you've got a home phone or a mobile, you can call them and they give you expert advice on how to get started. Basically, they get you to go through what you currently owe and where your outgoings are to try and sort out where you are. But due to the level of what I had spent and hadn't been able to pay back, I only had one option, which was to declare bankruptcy. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought that I was infallible and that I had a bubble around me and everything would be okay. But really, everything fell apart at that point for me. Another thing that I would say to anyone listening, if you are going through money problems, I know it's really difficult. I've been there. I think they honed Confessions of a Shopaholic on me. I wanted everything and I wanted everything now. I couldn't wait for anything. Everything had to be perfect. But I would say to anybody that's in the middle of it right now, your best bet is to get help as soon as you can. And I know that's easy to say, and I know it's very hard to do, but I would stress get as much help as you can from the very start, because what I could have done, if in hindsight, was to not have as much debt as I actually had, and there would have been other options. It would have been more open to me. But basically what happened was, through talking to them, I had to go to court and apply for an application for bankruptcy. Actually being in the law myself, working in law, I thought, oh my God, my life's over, my job's over, everybody's going to hate me, I don't know where to live, I don't know what I'm going to do. And when you watch a legal film, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have a judge with a wig in front of me saying to me, no, you cannot have this. What the hell have you done? Why have you bought clothes? This, that, and the other. But in hindsight, it wasn't. It was a lady sat at a desk with one of those little windows, and you go up, you fill in your form, and then you take it over to her and she checks it. There are companies out there that say that if you're struggling, they will be able to help you pay for it. But I had to find the money for the court fee, and I couldn't afford it. And with the knowledge that I'd already had, and with a little bit of help from friends and family and the charity, I was able to do the application myself. I'll never forget that day. We ended up going to the city centre where I lived in Bristol. I ended up at the wrong court and had to leg it because you've got to be there by a certain time. I didn't want to miss it. And then I saw these people in there and I'm thinking, oh, I'm not the only one. But the thing for me was I felt isolation and stupidity in the respect that the people that were actually declaring bankruptcy the day that I did had businesses. And the thing that took its toll on me was I didn't have anything to show for mine. Mine was just going on stuff and I didn't know why. What then happened after that was had a contact from the official receiver who deals with the bankruptcy, and then they take you through a telephone interview. All the while the heart's pounding, you're thinking, oh my God, I've got to tell these ladies again and go through everything. When all that's done, from the paperwork side of things, you file everything with them, and then you get assigned a caseworker. I was very fortunate that the gentleman that looked after me for quite some time was a lovely man. They don't bite, I promise, but the one thing I would say is always be honest, because you'll always know, they'll always know if you're not being honest. And I think one of the things that worked for me more than anything was that I've been honest through the whole process. I haven't tried to hide anything. When wages went up or you had bonuses, I automatically contacted them saying, I've got to repay this to you, and that's what I did. The whole process actually lasts a year, where you are given a budget and you've got to stick to it. And that's actually quite hard, especially from someone who always had money there or always had credit cards. I had to find a different way. But instead of using that process to actually get better, and thinking that I had hit rock bottom, I actually hadn't at all. And even to this day, I don't think I've actually hit rock bottom yet. The reason being is I had a cushion and they were called my family. They weren't going to let me go without. So what happened was, over the course of them working out what I had to pay them back, there was surplus there. So if there is surplus, your debt isn't completely written off. People think it is, but it's a myth. So the extra money that you had, it may be £50 extra after they've taken out your budget, that gets repaid back for a period of 3 years, and that starts from when your first repayment starts. I'm actually looking forward to this because at the end of March, my repayments actually stop. So I've actually come to the 3-year part. So I'm counting it down. I did the first year and that went quite quickly, but these last 3 years haven't, because the whole process is actually 7 years. The first year is you've got all your rules and regulations. Then the next 3 years is your repayment, if that's what they decide you're going to do. And then you're then free after the 3rd year, but you've still got you can light up Blackpool with your credit rating, because you're still going to be on there for 2 years. So it actually lasts 7 years, if anybody wanted to know. But it's not gospel. Please seek professional help. I don't know everything. I'm just a girl trying to get through it all. What then happened is, after I declared bankruptcy, I actually moved. I moved counties, not because of it. I actually got into a new relationship, which was lovely, but that also had its challenges. So not only did I have the bankruptcy going around in my head, I had a new relationship to deal with. I've moved 175 miles away from friends and family. I'd never left my hometown before, so it was all a bit of a shock. And on top of that, I then had a new job, which was demanding in, to say its least, and everything just started to get on top. The overwhelm, the over anxious thoughts, the panic attacks all started to everything like just caved in on me, and all I wanted to do was cry and just run back home again. Well, you can't do that. You have got to live in the real world. So what actually happened was, I hid away from friends. I didn't take calls. I didn't answer messages. My mum was on speed dial 9 times out of 10. She was always there, whether it was 3 o'clock in the morning because I'd woken up in a panic. That obviously took a toll on her, and your mum's always going to be there for you, but there's only so much that they can do for us, and you do need to kind of get to grips with yourself and how you are. So at that point, without my mum actually knowing, I'd actually contacted my GP, explained all the overwhelm, the crying, and just feeling completely anxious all the time. And that's when she advised me that there's a therapy called CBT, which is cognitive behavioural therapy. And there was a team called Time to Talk. I instantly thought, oh crumbs, I'm going to have to pay for it. I haven't got the money. And my budget wouldn't allow it. I couldn't go back to the OR and say, well, sorry, I've got anxiety. Can I have that in my budget as well? I think they would laugh me out of the bank with that one. But what she'd actually advised me was that the team was through the NHS and it was free. I contacted them and explained what was actually happening. I then went through a questionnaire. They came back to me a couple of days later, and that's when I was diagnosed with severe anxiety and moderate low mood. So I was then put on to CBT, but because I didn't want it to affect work, because I was still fairly new there, and I didn't want anybody to know that I suffered with it because of the stigma. And I know that I struggle with it, and I always say to people, we got to break the stigma, which we do. I didn't want that affecting what I was trying to build in the new home that I was in. So what I ended up doing was having telephone help, and that also helped me because I didn't have to go and meet anybody, so I wasn't anxious about meeting somebody face to face. I wasn't anxious at the fact that I was going to be in a room where I didn't know, or I had a location that I didn't know where I was going, so that kind of hid it away. The lady called me for 8 weeks. I found it quite funny because she had the same name as my sister, so I thought it was kind of a divine intervention that I was doing the right thing, and explained to my mum what I was doing, which she said to me, "I'm really proud of you for taking that step." So over the course of the 8 weeks, I spoke to this lady. She gave me a model of change, which is how we look at our thoughts. So you look at the situation, you look at how that's affecting you, the what, the why, the how, the when. So it could be that I freaked out looking at my bank balance, so that's what it was. But although I freaked out, I still needed to go and spend money. I know that sounds crazy, and I haven't quite got my head around it at the moment. I've got a shopping addiction that makes me anxious, but then I'm anxious for having the shopping addiction and still go and buy something. I'm still trying to figure that one out at the moment. The jury's out on that one. And then what then happened was I started to look at things and trying to look at the way that there is a little bit of good in every day. And I know that's really difficult to always say, but it might be that you talked to a friend. It might be that you had that couple of quid to go and get a coffee. It could be, I'm very lucky that I work near the beach, so I would go down to the beach and just sit and look at the waves, which for me, I absolutely adore being by water. So even at our lowest, there's always a little bit of goodness in everything that we do, even in the darkest of moments. And also on top of that, I've got social anxiety. Put me in a room with people that I don't know and I just freeze, can't talk about anything. I said to my work friend, I was meant to go out on like networking events to meet people. I couldn't. I've been in my job, I've now been in my job for almost 4 years, and I've hardly gone to any networking events. Nobody knows I exist apart from the telephone, and that's it. So clients are all cool, that's all fine, but for anybody else, they don't know I exist, and I'm quite happy with that at the moment. So for me, that's where I was. Currently at the moment, I've fallen back into a lot of bad habits, and I got a letter from the Time to Talk team about a month ago saying that I could start CBT, but at this point in time it would be face to face. And to be honest, I've waited 1.5 years, and it was just like the best letter ever, because I've gone back down that rabbit hole where it's all darkness, where you don't want to do anything, where everything is too much, and all you want to do is lie in your bed, shove the DV over your head and wait for the world to go by. And that's kind of where I am at the moment. But I think also as well is that we tend to forget, or because we're in our own heads too much, that it affects our family. It affects the people that we live with, our friends, and it takes quite a toll on relationships as well, whether people understand it or whether they don't. And that's another thing at the moment I'm trying to navigate around, in that I'm trying to work my head out at the same time is trying not to be too much of a handful to live with and being a drama queen at the same time. So what I've had in the last couple of weeks is gone back to face CBT, and we're going back to the same situation again now, in the respect that we're looking at what's triggering it, how I am affected by it, what I actually do. And I will confess, and this is just to give you a bit of a background, I get anxious when the house doesn't get tidied and it all gets cluttered. It messes with my brain entirely. But in the same way, and kind of flipping the coin, I'm too worried or anxious about dealing with it. So what I've actually realised even today before the podcast is that I'm trying to lead this perfect life with all this perfectionism. But what I'm actually doing is I'm pushing the perfectionism on the people that I live with. So I tasked my boyfriend up to the highest hill, and he's like, no more tasks. It's just not for me. I'm lucky. He's lucky in the respect that I take him to like the shops and stuff, but I don't actually go in. And last week we went shopping. I hadn't done it for a couple of weeks. I'm just thinking you're just gonna have to get yourself out there. But between actually getting out and going, I had a bit of a head flip. Went into the shop, couldn't really see anything I wanted, got freaked out by it and said, right, that's it, I want to go home. And so that's what actually happened. And for me, it's just trying to do the everyday in everything, actually getting up and not kind of looking at the clock thinking, oh God, I got to be at X and I got to be at Y. So for me, it's just stripping it all back and starting back at the basics.
So where you're at now, first of all, thank you for sharing that and for being so open and honest, because I know that even that in itself is going to be comforting for people to hear. Not that anybody is going to be happy that you had to go through this or that you are going through this. But as we said just before the podcast started, I think one of the main overriding feelings that we get when we're anxious is that we're the only ones. And even if we know kind of logically that we're not, often it doesn't stop that feeling that no one else gets it, no one else understands, you know. And we're really hard on ourselves. We really beat ourselves up about choices we've made, or, you know, decisions we've made, or, you know, the way that we've acted. And actually all that's doing is keeping us stuck in that cycle, and it's feeding that anxiety more. So first of all, thank you for coming on and for sharing all of that. And I want to take it in stages. And then for everybody listening, what we thought we would do is we're going to look at Cheryl's situation as she is now. As you've just heard, she's had a round of CBT previously, although it was a little while ago now, and you are just on the cusp of starting again for a 12-week period. So we thought it might be really helpful to document how this goes. So obviously Cheryl has a little bit of experience having done it before, so I'm going to ask her about that in a moment. And then we're going to do a follow-up podcast in a set amount of time that is yet to be determined, probably baby delivery dependent, to come back and see how you're doing. Because I think, you know, I keep using this hashtag and this saying that we're stronger together, but I truly believe it. And I think what I hope is that people listening will know that everyone else hasn't figured it out. Because I think, you know, it's nice to hear these inspiring stories, and it's great when someone can come on and say, you know, like Anthony, who was on last Friday, his story was amazing, and it's lovely to hear that he now doesn't suffer. But I do think if you're someone who is still in that struggle, that can sometimes feel a little bit out of reach, and it's very easy to dismiss it and go, that doesn't apply to me, I can't relate to that. So I'm really, really thankful that you're on here and that you are right in your journey now. You've had highs, you've had lows, you're still taking these steps. So the first thing I wanted to do was thank you for sharing. And the second thing I wanted to do was just honor your bravery, because I don't know that even you realize how incredibly brave you've been to even do all of those things you just talked about. So I wanted to acknowledge that, because not everybody has that strength. Not everybody has that belief in themselves that they can do something about it. And you're living proof that you can. You're also living proof that this isn't a quick fix. There is no magic wand. It's not like a little pill you take and suddenly everything goes away. And that might sound like a negative statement to make, but I think that quite a lot of the time we can read books or follow programs or even read motivational posters, and
they kind of give the impression that, oh, it's okay because you just do this and it'll all be roses, which it might make you feel amazing when you read it, but it's actually bollocks. and then when you realize it's bollocks, like, you'll feel worse than you did before. So I think I wanted to pick up on that as well. So I want to go back and I want to say, so initially, would you say that the initial cause of the anxiety was when that initial relationship breakdown and you piled on the weight? Would you say that was sort of the start of it? I know you said that you thought maybe you'd been dealing with it before that, but obviously there's always something that just kind of pushes us over the edge. It's like, right, that's it. And now we're into anxiety mode. So would you say that's where it all sort of started for you?
I would probably say it did, but I'd probably say towards the end of like the weight loss, and it was when I was spending all the money, and it was at the point of I got this brand new body, and then it's like, all credit card city, I can go and have anything I want, because my brain thought, well, I'm the shape that I've always wanted to be, and now everything's okay. And it was kind of a case of, I think for me, it's always looking for perfection, but not actually being able to obtain perfection, thinking that you're up here or that you need to be up here, and not actually living in the here and now. And I think that's a lot of also my problem, is I've gone round with life with a bit of rose tinted glasses, and now when, especially with the losing of the weight after the relationship and then the money, it put me back into life, if that makes sense. Rather than walking on air, I was catapulted into it.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to pick up on, first of all. And this is kind of hindsight coaching, because obviously you've been there, you've been through it, and you're where you are now. But I think if we can unpick some of what happened along the way, then not only will you be aware of this, so that if this cycle comes around again, you might have a new decision to make or a new choice. And also for anybody listening, there may be people listening who are further back in your journey. So there might be someone who is just going through a breakup or has just navigated that. Maybe there's other people who are beasting themselves in the gym, or are spending on credit cards, or it's that behavior of, I've lost something, so I must replace it with something else. It's like trying to fill that void.
Yeah.
And what I want to pick up on with that is the answer, which you probably now know. But the answer to that is, I think when a relationship breaks down, or anything traumatic, so whether it's your relationship, or you lose your job, or maybe you lose somebody in your family, or in my case, it was, I lost some very close friends through a kind of catalogue of events, which had to happen, but at the same time, it was very traumatic at the time for me. And I think we can get into this behaviour of trying to fill that void. And what you discovered, whether you realised it or not, was there isn't anything to fill that void other than what is inside of you. And anytime you try to fill it from something external, you are going to then realise that it's not doing the trick. And I think probably subconsciously, if not consciously, at some point, you would have come to the realisation, so when your relationship broke down, your train of thought went, okay, so I'm going to get myself in shape and I'm going to focus on the gym. And it would have felt amazing because exercise is really good for you. But your focus behind that, your reason for doing that, wasn't coming from alignment or from your soul. It was coming from, I need to do something to replace what I've lost. And I think you get to that point where you set a goal and you go for it, and maybe you even achieve it. So in your case, you lost all that weight, which is amazing, but you got to that weight, and guess what? You still felt empty. You were still like, that's not, like, I haven't found it. It's like we get to the end of the rainbow and there's no frigging pot of gold. And so then the spending came in. So then it was like, well, maybe I deserve, and I bet there was like a part of you, if not a huge part of you, going, well, God, look at what I've been through, look at what I've achieved, I bloody well deserve some nice stuff, so I'm going to get it. So you do it, but you realize consciously or subconsciously, or maybe not, that none of that tangible stuff, none of that material stuff is going to satisfy what's actually missing. And all it is, it's that you're out of alignment with who you are as a person in your heart and soul. And I think another part of it as well, just to add in, is this feeling as well that when you've been through something very traumatic or very jarring, and then you come to a place in your life where things are less traumatic, so maybe you've had a few wins, maybe you got a new job, or maybe you did lose the weight, or you did make some money, or you did make some friends, or whatever it may be, then the anxiety still shows up, because part of you is of the belief that you don't get to be happy, that it doesn't get to be easy, and that at some point you're going to screw it all up like you did before. And then we get into this self-sabotage thing where we then start to create that. So we get to this point where, we may even have achieved all of the goals that we want, and maybe even from some place of alignment, maybe not from this needing to fill a void, but then the anxiety crops up because we're like, oh, but I don't deserve to be this happy. This isn't what I do, because everything you've experienced previously has not been that way. You were happy before, and then the relationship went wrong, and then you were happy before, but then the weight loss didn't make you feel as good as you thought it was going to do, and then you were happy when you were spending, but then it's like this light and shade, this yin and yang. It's like for every good thing that happens, something bad has to happen, and we get into this belief that that's how it has to be. So I think that, and then on top of everything else, we've got the kind of self-loathing of, oh God, why have I done this to myself? I'm so stupid, and I'm the only one. And you look around and you just think, look, nobody else is struggling to pay their bills, and nobody else is struggling to, stay the same weight, or whatever, whatever your issue is. I think we're really good at looking at others through our own eyes. And if they don't appear to be struggling like we are, that's where the loneliness comes from. That's where the belief comes from that we're the only ones. So I think it's very interesting to look back at that sequence of events to see kind of what set it off in the first place, and then what transpired as a result. And again, I just want to acknowledge that you were super brave to take those steps that you took. And there have been times, multiple times, where you've been in a place of power because you've said, actually, this isn't good enough for me. You could have gone through your relationship breakdown and then just, put the covers over your head, but you didn't. You got in the gym. So I think, and to you, you're thinking, oh, but that was a bad thing because then it led to this and this and this. But actually, no, you almost had it. You almost had it right. You just missed the piece, which is that you do get to be happy, and you do get to be in control. And it's building up that self-worth, and it's building up that belief that you are deserving of the good things you're working for. And I think when that's missing, that's when things can unravel again, because we will get so far, and then that self-belief issue kicks in, and we go, oh no, wait, no, we're not allowed this. We don't believe we're worthy of this. And then we start to pull back from it. So that will show up like you'll maybe stop doing the things that would help you. You would start to repeat the old habits. And I know you said how you feel now is that you've started to go back down the rabbit hole. Well, that's a habit that has formed that can be broken. It can't always be broken just by deciding, oh, I won't do that anymore. Because if you're not getting to the root of why you're doing that, that's the driving force. It's the energy behind it. It's the emotion behind it. And if you think on any level, I'm not worthy of this, or, the big thing for a lot of people is not even worthiness. They don't think it's safe. So you were at a point where you thought you were happy and you felt happy, and then something went wrong, and to you this whole catalogue of events happened since, So in that part of your mind, why on earth would you ever let yourself be happy again? Because the same thing's coming. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And everything that you've spoken about, I can really resonate with. There's so much in that. Thank you very much, Lily. I've got golden nuggets there that I can go and work on myself, but definitely self-worth, being out of alignment. I didn't even look at it that way. And I do have an extremely bad habit of sabotaging everything. And it is filling a void. I didn't even see it. It was like I always had to have something to drive towards. But even now, it's like I want to go and do something. It's like in the midst of all this, before the bankruptcy, I said, that's it, I want to go and be a personal trainer. I thought I look the part, so that'll be it. To date, that qualification never got done because the overwhelm of having to look a certain way, I couldn't do it. And it took me about 3 years to actually say to the training provider, I'm sorry, I can't do it, because I kept thinking, well, maybe I can do it. And I kept going up to this specific exam, and I thought, no, I can't. So I think an awful lot of what you've said, I can resonate with, and there's an awful lot there that I can use, if you don't mind, to actually work on myself. And
no, of course. This is the thing. I think, you've said already about this need for perfection. And it was interesting that you said about your house as well, because I really resonate with a lot of what you're talking about. And I've been through some of what you're talking about as well. And the thing about the house, I don't know if you would agree, but for me, the clutter stresses me out. My husband wouldn't agree. He's in the other room. I bet he's laughing and shaking his head right now, because I'm like the messiest cow to live with. But in my brain, the way it works for me is if I'm feeling centered and grounded and inspired and motivated and calm and I'm on top of my shit, for want of a better expression, it manifests in my environment around me. And I become more organized, and my house looks nice, and I take pride not only in my house, but even my own appearance. If you see me slogging about town where I haven't had a shower and my hair's just everywhere, and it's usually a sign that I'm not a happy bunny or that something is out. And it's a really kind of woo-woo approach. And I don't know that a lot of doctors would agree with this. I know that anxiety has been proven to be a chemical imbalance in the brain, and there's medical blah, blah, blah. But my own experience, I believe, is my anxiety showed up when I strayed off my path. My anxiety showed up when I stopped doing the things that excited me, that lit me up, that were in alignment with who I am in the first place and why I'm even here. And, that's a massive kind of woo-woo kind of way to look at it. And yet it makes perfect sense to me. And that will resonate with some people listening, and other people will be like, nope, she's nutty as a fruitcake, just as we thought. And you've been right about that as well, but I'm cool with it. That's cool. Like, we can all be cool with that. It's fine. I am balmy, but I quite like it that way. But yeah, the house thing, you can tell by the state of my house, the state of my mind. And it's like a catch-22, because the more cluttered it is, the more anxious I get, and the more anxious I get, the more messy I get. But even that I kind of put down to, it's what I felt deserving of. And like, when you don't even feel worthy of like brushing your hair or putting your makeup on, it's nothing to beat yourself up about. It is something to just be aware of, and kind of to be aware, it's starting to be aware of these things and releasing the judgment of it. And, so a few things, I think this would be really good for you, because when you listen back to this podcast episode, in fact, an exercise I'd love you to do is listen back to this episode and write down any time you've said, I am blah, blah, blah. Because a few times you said statements like, I can't even think of any off the top of my head, but for an example, I'm really unorganized, or I'm really stupid because I did blah, blah, blah. Or I really let myself down when I did blah, 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 blah. And even if you're not talking about yourself now, even if you're talking about yourself then, you're still talking about yourself. And that's showing you that is still a belief that's inside. And when you believe that, that will affect how you act, because it will affect how, if you believe that you don't deal with things well, or that you let things unravel, or that you go back down a rabbit hole, or whatever it is, that's kind of what you will then manifest, because it comes from that root belief. So it would be really, really interesting for you to just become aware of that, but without the emotion attached to it. So try, anytime, and maybe listening to the podcast or maybe not, this might just happen day to day, but anytime you become aware of something that you think of yourself, or something that you say out loud, or even an action that you take, try and be aware of it, but remove the emotion. So try and be a little bit like, oh, look what I did there. Oh, look, I just put that bill to the bottom of that pile and I didn't open it because I think I can't handle that, but maybe I can. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, start looking at it, but without the emotion, because the minute you let emotion get involved, not only does it solidify that belief, it creates more of the same. Your emotions are like your inner GPS system. So when you feel sad, or frustrated, or angry, or any emotion like that, that is the emotion that you are calling in more of, if that makes sense. You'll find more reasons. Yeah. So you'll find more reasons to feel sad, frustrated, angry. So it's trying to remove the emotion and start looking at yourself not as your human form, but as the beautiful ball of golden light, or whatever we look like. We're probably not, actually. Do you know what? We're probably not balls of golden light. We're probably like these really ugly little creatures. But anyway, we're still beautiful in our soul. And if you start looking and going, okay, well, I'm going to look at it from that point of view, then it's, instead of going, oh, look what I did, I'm so stupid, you can just go, oh, look what that human tendency was, and I wonder why, and where does that come from, and how aligned with that is it to who I am and what I'm here to do. So I think that would be a really good exercise to do. And the other thing I want you to do when you listen back to this as an exercise is pull out every single time, every single anecdote that you shared when you were strong and when you did something amazing. So to me, even the relationship breaking down, even if you felt like that was out of your control, even if you whatever you believe about that, you survived it. That's a positive thing. So focus on that. Don't focus on, oh, I did all these mistakes. Focus on, well, these things happened, but look what I did. Even now, you've identified that you're feeling not in a great place, not where you want to be, and you have taken some steps to get the help that you need. And I know how hard that is. I know how horrible it is for people. And, especially CBT, a lot of people don't understand what it is. It sounds, really scary when they say cognitive behavioural therapy. You're just like, cognitive what now? Like, what are you going to do to my brain? You think they're going to put a helmet on you with pads and be like, oh my Lord, what are they going to do? So I think what I'll get you to do in just a second is share your experience of CBT so far. What it did for you, how it helped, even how it didn't help. Like, give us the warts and all version. I've talked about CBT before because for me it didn't work. As I was saying to you earlier, I actually massively believe in CBT. It's very, very close to the NLP sort of stuff that I learned from my hypnotherapist. It's very similar. I just didn't resonate with the guy that I happened to get on the day that I went to have my session. So I am definitely not saying CBT is a bad thing. I know for a fact it works because I know countless people that have had it and really, really done well off the back of it. So anyone listening, if you've been told that you should try CBT, or maybe you're gearing up to have some CBT, hopefully this next bit of the discussion will help to put your mind at ease to at least understand what to expect and how it works. But it's mainly conversational. There is no helmet. There's no pads. At least This is the UK. I don't know what it's like anywhere else, but like we didn't get that.
No, I can assure everybody that there's no helmet and there's no pads anywhere in the room, and you're not in a padded room either.
No, it's just two people having a conversation, and a lot like hypnotherapy. Quite often they're not. It's not even somebody sat there going, "Oh, you silly girl," or "You silly boy," like you're stupid because you did that. Like this is how it is. It's more just like, "Oh, so that's what you believe. I acknowledge it. I honor it. But how about if you looked at it this way, or have you thought about it that way?" And it's more just suggestive, isn't it? It's just, "Oh, did you ever think about it this way round?" Which for me, hypnotherapy was very similar to that. And obviously there are differences, but in that my hypnotherapist is NLP trained, and it's a similar kind of thing. You know, I would make a statement of, "Oh, this always happens," or "This is what I," you know, and I'm very strong-willed, so I'm like, "This is the truth and this is how it is." And she would always just do this, you know, kind of annoying thing, but transforming at the same time, where she'd just smile and be like, "Oh, that's an interesting belief." And you're like, "God damn it." Like, "Oh, I hate when you're right." And she's like, "Oh, but you know, what if that wasn't the truth? What if you could look at it this way?" And it's like, yeah, all right. We hate to be told we're wrong. This is the thing. Like, I think the thing that anxiety comes from is this ego part. It's like the human part of us. This thing that we hate to be wrong. We hate to be told that maybe we kind of got something wrong or didn't see it the right way or whatever. We hate that. So lots of people are very resistant for that reason. But I think if you can open yourself up and just be like, "Oh, okay, I'm not perfect and that's okay. Show me what you've got," you can learn a lot, and it becomes a bit of a light-hearted game rather than this kind of dark sort of spiral that you find yourself in. So when you did your CBT course previously, what was the main goal for that round of CBT? And then if you could just talk everybody through how it was for you, like what did you have to do, and how it benefited you, like from beginning to end for those 8 sessions. So just kind of give us an overview if you can.
Yes, certainly. Basically, when I had the 8 sessions, I was crying all the time. I had panic attacks. It felt like the thoughts in my head were on a 24/7 CD loop of negativity and couldn't get out of it. Basically what I had 8 telephone calls with a lovely lady who kind of said, "How's your week been this week? And what's been the bad parts of it? What's been the good parts of it?" So I would usually say to her, "Well, my thoughts are out of sync," or "This has happened," or "That's happened." And then, as you said, Lily, they look at it and they go, "Well, actually, break it down a little bit," and it was trying to work out what the situation was, what actually triggered it, how you were actually feeling and how you reacted to it. And one of the things was, it even at that time, was the clutter of the house. And when I actually broke it down, anyone would think that was a 5-year-old toddler having a fit, because you would see the clutter in the house. I would instantly go, "Okay, I can leave it there for a day," and then it wouldn't be done in that day either by me or by my partner. And then all of a sudden my partner would say, "No, you leave it, I'll do that." And then it wasn't done now by that particular moment, which then infuriated me to the point that I would just get enraged and then go and do it. But I made sure that he and all the neighbours knew that I was doing it. So I'd thud, I'd thump, I'd crash, I'd clang. Thank God our landlord hasn't kicked us out, because anyone would think I'd have a hissy fit. And even coming to the point of coming into the car park and someone taking my space, the rage, it would just like feel right straight up inside. But I never hurt anybody and nobody was ever hurt, but it was just that instant red rag to a bull, and I didn't want to be like that. And I wanted to be able to control my thoughts so that I didn't come in straight off, have a bad day at work and then take it out on the first person that I saw. So it was a case of trying to work out what was actually causing it. And a lot of it for me at that particular moment in time was one of the people within the office, their way of dealing with their stresses was to slam things down on the floor. So it would be a slamming of a file, which for me, internally, I could hear it. I didn't want to go in the room to go and ask if there was any more work, because I knew that there would be. Also, within the anxious thoughts, my work was suffering. That there was moments where I could type like a legend and have no mistakes, and then there was letter coming back on like back and forth, and that would just make me more anxious, because I would then get somebody saying, I need it like this and I need it now. But then with the slamming of the files, I can actually feel it now sitting here. I used to sit here and I used to shudder, and the only way that I could do it was to shut my door. But then if I closed my door, I couldn't hear it, but then someone would come in and ask me, and then I'd burst into tears. But then I didn't want to go back to a point where I had been many years ago, where I was known as a crybaby, and kind of doing that. So what the CBT did was to break it down, look at what the actions were, and then how I could deal with it. So it was to not let anybody be affected, to not let other people affect how I was feeling, and it was just kind of take time out, go and breathe, and then come back to it, and just write. And basically I just used to write on my journal, and that kind of eased it for me a little bit, and just kind of seeing the good in the day. And then that just happened over the period of the weeks, and I don't know how, I know it sounds awful, but I don't know how it happened, but just following the steps of what the lady gave me, something just shifted. Whether I, as you put it, I aligned with myself, and then I was okay, but I knew that I'd have to keep on top of it. And I was fine for probably about 3 months after the initial telephone calls, and then I just stopped. I stopped looking after myself. The self-care sort of went out the window, and things started to be a battle. So I went back to the steps of looking at it and what I could do. So I just wrote everything out. For me, it was the only way of letting the tension out without actually being a burden to anybody else.
Yeah, that's interesting. What's really interesting was something you said a minute ago, which I don't know where this comes from, if it's from any of the time periods that you've already spoken about, or if it's from something earlier. But you said you were called a crybaby, and that wasn't something that you wanted to be. And it's almost like in your mission to not be a crybaby, it manifested as anger. And I wonder, and I'm not a qualified therapist by any stretch of the imagination. All of my opinions and my thoughts come from things I've been through, things I've experienced, and things I've learned myself. And one thing I've learned is, and this is something that I even teach in singing, and it's so relevant to this as well, that the thing you think is the problem is very rarely the problem. So, the fact that you were getting cross because somebody parked in your car space, which, by the way, I totally hear you. That would push my buttons now. I saw it happen. I was in a multi-story car park not that long ago, and I could not believe what I saw. There was a whole queue of us. It was a busy car park. A lady was slowly turning into a space, and the guy behind her drove around her car and went into the space ahead of her. My husband had to lock the car doors. I was ready to go. I was like, oh, hell no, you don't do that. But I think, that it isn't about the space. It's a little bit about the space, but it's not about the space. It's about the violation. Like, it's another reminder that, in that case, that's disrespectful. That's showing that you don't matter. It's highlighting all these emotions that are going to make you cross, and that's where the emotion comes from. I had someone in a lesson once. Actually, it was a singing lesson, but they came in quite upset. And, you know, they were absolutely livid, because I think it was something to do with how washing had been hung on a line. And I just said to them, it's not the washing on the line. Like, that's what you've attached it to. But it wasn't to do with that. It was a much deeper issue. And I think, so that thing you said about, oh, I'm not a crybaby, or I got called a crybaby, and that's not okay. You know, in actual fact, it's totally okay. We're allowed to cry. It's a release of emotion. It's necessary. And I do wonder whether, is that something that happened in adult life, or is that something that happened way beyond, like, when you were a child?
No, that actually happened in adult life. It was probably about 15 years ago now, maybe 20, depending on what job you looked at it. But it was interesting listening back to you then, but it's actually become relevant in my job now. It's just that I'm an emotional person, and I can't help it. If something triggers me, it will make me cry. And being in the environment that I'm in, you're kind of meant to be strong and you got to be resilient, and I am, but I do feel, and I have got emotions, and I can't help that. So part of it is that I'm too sensitive for my own good, and I can't help that. And whether that serves as a stick to beat me with, whether that's with my anxiety or with someone else, it's kind of, I've got to find a way around it. So then what I then tend to do is I go back into my cave and I don't talk, which I've never learned how to have the in-between of not being aggressive but not being too emotional. I'm sure there's a level playing field there, but I haven't learned it. So if anyone's got any tips, let me know.
I just think it's about owning who you are. It's about honouring your emotions. Again, you said a bunch of stuff there. Oh, I'm too sensitive. There's no such thing. You're a human being. There are going to be things that upset you. There are going to be things that make you angry. There are going to be things that make you happy. It's all perfect. And I think, you know, sometimes we get into these situations where we allow the opinions of others, or even just the social norm, to dictate how we should be. And and you said something about, I have to learn to be stronger, or something of that sort. But what if you don't have to learn that? What if everything you are, and this is something I really want to drive home, because I think, for a start, oh God, I don't even know what direction to go in. It's all just pouring out of me. But for a start, I think people with anxiety are emotional people. We're empathic. That's the whole bloody point. I think a lot of the time, the anxiety we feel probably isn't even our own. I think we pick up on the stresses and the strains of the world. We are very, very intuitive when it comes to how other people feel. And we really worry about how our actions are affecting others. And so, you know, to the point where you would try and stop your emotions flowing because you don't want to offend the people that are around you. Like, this is what we're like. I happen to think that's not a bad thing. I think it's a bloody beautiful thing. And it's something I've now learned to embrace. And when I learned to embrace that, a lot of that anxiety just disappeared, because suddenly I let myself off the hook. It was like, well, you know, if my being emotional unhinges somebody or threatens somebody, then I'm really sorry. But this is me. I feel like I'm going to break out into song now from The Greatest Showman, but I won't. This is me. But yeah, it's so interesting, and so much of what you're talking about, I've said it already, but I can really resonate with, because before I did any of these jobs where I worked for myself, I worked in a call center. I totally get the slamming around. I was that person. I used to slam doors, and oh my God, and I would really allow other people to dictate my mood. It really would. If I got a good call and someone was nice to me, I'd be on top of the world. And then if I got a call where somebody was rude, I could not bear that they were being rude to me. I could not bear. And it all came from this belief that, you know, they were above me and I was below, because they were the ones ringing in, even though I'm the one helping them. So it didn't actually make any sense now I think about it, but that was how I felt. It was like, I'm being of service to this person. They don't respect me. But I think the actual issue was, at the time, maybe I didn't respect me. I didn't realize that I was absolutely enough. It doesn't matter what job you're doing. It doesn't matter how you are emotionally as a person. None of that matters. You're perfectly imperfect as you are. And I'm really aware now of when I say things like, oh, I have to learn to be more blah, blah, blah. No, maybe I don't have to learn to do that. Maybe I just get to be me and that's enough. Maybe if I am a massive crybaby, maybe that's okay as well. And it's interesting because I've always had an issue with crying. I've always attached it to weakness, not just with me, but with others as well. Like if somebody cries around me, it's different. If they're crying because they're very sad, I'll be very, very sympathetic. But if they're crying because, I don't know, I can't even think of an example. Like, if we've had a disagreement and then they start crying, that pushes my buttons. I'm like, oh, don't even bring that. And I'm like that with myself more than anything. So when I feel like I'm going to cry, I will do everything to stop myself. I won't watch movies if I think they're going to upset me. I hate when I get emotional. I've noticed in more recent years, definitely since having kids, it's getting harder to have a handle on that. In fact, I completely lost it with some poor guy at a company I won't name because they screwed something up for us this week. And I ended up having to go to my parents' house overnight because our house we couldn't stay here. And he wasn't listening to me. And I used to work in customer service. So and before I went on, because my dad knows what I'm like, my dad was like, remember, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. This guy has just logged on. He's there to help you. I was like, Dad, I was a customer services manager, don't you know? Like, I know exactly how to deal with customer service people. I know that screaming and shouting doesn't help, and I will be very understanding. And I did manage it. But unfortunately, the guy chose not to listen. And he started to repeat his script, which told me that he wasn't paying me attention, which then led to, you don't respect me as a person, you don't respect how I feel. Like, oh my God, he opened a can of worms and I snapped. And I think only the bats could hear me. At some point, I was so irate and I was crying and I was hysterical and I was like, oh my Lord, pregnancy is not fun. But that there is a time I would have then been anxious the rest of the day because I reacted that way. This is the point I'm trying to come to. There is a time when that wouldn't have been okay in my book and I would have beat myself up about it. And as it was, I didn't. I was like, well, no, because he didn't listen to me. He bloody well did listen when I started talking like that. And then I was very nice to him afterwards. And, he had to ask me to take a breath. I was like, okay, I'm breathing, but are you actually going to do what I want? And he did do what I wanted. But, the point is, a lot of our anxiety comes from all these bloody rules that we make for ourselves and that other people make for ourselves. And the truth is, if somebody calls you a crybaby, like to get really deep with it, they have an issue with crying as well. Like they're threatened by you crying because of something in their life. And I think one of the biggest things for me was learning that just because somebody thinks something, it doesn't make it true. And even if I think something, it still doesn't make it true. And there's a quote that Marie Forleo says, which I'm sure I've used before, but I'll say it again, which is, we have a mind, but we are not our mind. And what that means is quite often we just take for granted that, oh, I feel this way or I think this way, therefore that must be the truth. And actually, that's not the case at all. We can always choose to think something different. It's just for most of us, we don't realize that's an option. And we just think, oh, well, that just is how it has to be. So, yeah, very, very interesting that came up about the crybaby thing. And on a number of occasions in this call, you've said, I need to learn to be more this, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. And I just want to say, like, what if you didn't need to do any of that? What if it's about accepting who you are now? I think so many times, especially with anxiety, we have this feeling that I have this issue and I have to fix it, or I'm broken in some way and I have to mend it, or I'm not enough as I am and until I do X, Y, and Z, I still won't be enough, and therefore I can't enjoy my life, and I can't feel true happiness, and I can't have a house that's tidy. Maybe that's not true for me anyway. I think there'll always be a bit of clutter, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm okay with that. I'm embracing it. I'm not sure my husband is, but that's cool. We're working on it. But I think it is. I think the biggest thing we can do. Yeah, I mean, these techniques are brilliant. What the lady in the CBT taught you was amazing. But what it also taught you at the time, which I don't know if you realise, was while you were learning all of these techniques, and it what's the word? I can't even think of my words. This is baby brain. While you were doing all of the techniques and taking on board what she was teaching you, and yes, you were learning coping mechanisms, at the same time, you were learning that you're only okay when somebody else tells you what to do. You're only okay when you have to take on all this extra stuff that you have to remember to write lists and write in a journal and do this and do that. And, we all have these things that we do. And I think the best lesson you could learn, and the best lesson you could go into the next round of CBT with, is these exercises are going to help me, but ultimately it comes from inside of you. You don't need these. You're just choosing to have them for the moment. Just like you would choose to use a crutch if you broke your leg, but you wouldn't need it forever because your leg is strong and you're strong. And I think I would just be aware of that, because like you said, then after 3 months, it was like, oh, that lady's gone now. Those calls have stopped now. And then you kind of start to dwindle, and then you don't really keep up with the exercises anymore. And then you go back down the rabbit hole, as you said, the cycle starts again. I think that the really powerful thing you can do is recognize that it all starts and ends with you. And actually, to be really hippie about it, you already have all the answers. You don't actually need any of this stuff. Like, even you guys listening, you don't even need this podcast, but I hope you keep listening because it's nice. But the point is, you have all the answers already. It's all in you. Occasionally, we need these crutches. We need these tools. We definitely need each other. Nobody was sent here to walk alone. Nobody was sent here to do this on their own, certainly. But I think the minute you attribute your success to anything other than you, that's when it can be taken away again. And that's where the fear comes from, because then you start, I bet you started to get fearful towards the end of your CBT because you were thinking, oh, how am I going to cope when I don't have this anymore? What am I going to do? Like when this, it's like when Mary Poppins leaves at the end of the film and they're like, what are we going to do without you? Well, the point is, it was always in you. You already had it. And so I would accept the help that's offered for sure. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying 100% do it. But give yourself some props for stepping up and for taking that action. And every step of the way, instead of coming from this energy of, oh, I have to do this, otherwise I can't survive, or I have to do this, otherwise I can't be happy, just say, I choose to do this because this enhances my day. But my transformation comes from me. My strength comes from me. My decision to thrive in spite of anxiety comes from me. It all comes from you. And start giving yourself some props to everything you've achieved so far, because it's really amazing. And the other thing is, which again, this triggers some people, especially when they can't see the light yet, when it's so in the dark that they can't see a way out. This will be triggering what I'm about to say. But my experience was everything I went through that was so jarring and horrible has led to what I'm doing now, which is the best thing I've ever done. And so I truly believe it was paving my way. It was my journey. It was all for a purpose. There was nothing that happened to me happened for nothing, and nothing that happened to you happened for nothing either. And, right now you're at this point where you could repeat the lesson again, or you could just learn the lesson, which is you're stronger than you'll ever know, and you're braver than you'll ever know. And you absolutely have the power to turn anything around in your life at any point that you choose to. So that's something I want you to know. It's something I want everybody listening to know as well. And that is truly coming from personal experience. That's coming from me. And have I got everything figured out? No. You know, I've definitely still got things I struggle with. I'm a human being. I think the difference, though, is my perception of that and what that means. I no longer beat myself up about it. I don't feel like a failure. I truly don't. I feel like a warrior, and I feel like these things that have been sent to test me have all been teaching me lessons that I needed to learn. And I now have a habit of, and again, this is, you know, if you see how easy it is for you to stick to these habits, then when you start choosing healthy habits instead of toxic habits, you'll see how much your life can change. So one of my habits is I don't talk in terms of problems anymore. I won't allow myself to say, oh, I've got a problem with blah, blah, blah. I call it a growth opportunity, which might be me in a little bit of denial, but I don't think so. Because imagine this. If you sit down at the end of your day and you are surrounded by and drowning in issues, in challenges, in problems, how heavy does that feel? How burdening does that feel? Whereas just change the language and say, well, they're not problems, they're growth opportunities. And now how does that feel when you sit down at the end of the day and you're surrounded by opportunities to grow, opportunities to learn? That doesn't feel heavy to me. Suddenly I'm like, oh my God, I can elevate in a million different ways. You know, these things that are coming up, like the biggest issue you have right now, what if that is your biggest lesson? What if that is your biggest block to get you to the highest point of your life where you never felt better? Like, to me, that shifts the energy completely. It might all be bollocks. Like, I might get to the other side and be like, oh no, it really was just a problem. But what it does, when I change the energy of how I feel about it, I feel empowered and able to deal with it. When it's a problem, it feels heavy. I want to hide from it. I don't want to look at it. I feel scared of it. It has the power over me. Whereas that reframe of, oh, this is a growth opportunity. Right, what can I learn from this? Why is this happening? Why has that occurred? What was my involvement in that? You know, what responsibility can I take? And again, with no judgment, I'm going to take responsibility for that. And you did that. You did that when you were talking about all of the financial stuff that you went through. You did exactly that. You didn't sit and bellyache and blame everything around you. I'm sure you did at some point, but then there came a point where you were like, all right, hands up. I did it, Jahir, and I'm glad I tell you. It's like, right, all right, you know, fuck it. I did that, but what now? Okay. All right, I made a mistake. I'm a human being. We all do it, and we all do it in different ways. And it's the perception of what it means about who we are as people and about what it means for the future. And I truly think when you get that, the lesson starts to break down. The challenges become less, the opportunities to grow become more, and you feel far more empowered and far more able to move forward. Does any of that I just said make any sense at all?
It does, Lizzie. There's just so much from that. Like, going back a little bit when you said about the customer service man, and you sort of said that you believed that he was above and you were below. That actually resonates with me with a personal relationship that I've got. Is I've always felt I'm not good enough. I think an awful lot of it is that, in a weird way, and not to turn anybody off, but I don't know who I am. I don't feel worthy enough. I don't love myself enough. But trying to find alignment, when I kind of did the PT course, I thought that was my calling, because I thought, well, I've lost all the weight, I can go and help. And I have this empathy to help others, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So I'm still on that journey of trying to figure out what it is that I actually like, what I can actually do to make me happy, and what actually makes me happy. I know I love reading, I know I love writing, I know I love listening to your podcast because it's bloody wonderful, and it takes me out of myself, and I'm like, yeah, I can really learn that, and everybody on here is so inspiring. But you're
one of those now. You are one of those, and you just said, I don't know how to help people. You are helping people, and I want to say anyone listening, please, 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 I know you've all got busy lives and I know it takes a bit of your time, but please, God, send a message to this amazing woman and tell her how much her sharing her story has helped you today. Because this is it. This is exactly it. You're already doing it. You just said, oh, I don't know how to help people, but you already are. And by being exactly who you are and exactly all the choices you've made, you're already making a difference. You already matter. So it's important to recognize that. And I think, and I was where you were only a year ago. And the funny thing was, I didn't realize that either, because I was like, well, I'm a confidence coach. Obviously, I'm confident. Obviously, I love myself. And then I was like, no, actually, I think I'm a twat. I think I'm a massive twat most of the time. And actually, I think if I'm really honest, I started helping people because it meant I didn't have to deal with my own crap. Like, if I want to be really honest about it. But it's just that reframe. It's that reframe now and go, well, like, I haven't figured out blah, blah, blah yet. But what if you have? What if you're already doing it and you just didn't realize? Because your focus right now is on what you can't do. You haven't put any focus on what you already are doing, what you already are capable of. And I also think, you know, especially now, we're surrounded by people and books and programs and, you know, things on the telly and films even, where everyone seems to have figured out their life purpose, and we feel like everyone's kind of scrabbling. They want to get to that, you know, that moment of, this is what I'm supposed to do. And actually, like, no one really knows. Who bloody knows? But, you know, and so don't look at your whole life. Don't try and figure out your whole life. Don't even try and figure out this week. Just figure out in the next moment what would make you happy. You know, if it's drinking hot chocolate in a Cafe Nero, that's what makes me happy. That's what I do. I do it nearly every day. It's finding those little times to be happy, to be fulfilled, in however that means. And I know you just mentioned that you love writing, and I feel like this is a really good opportunity to let everybody know that Cheryl actually has started helping people because you set up a blog, didn't you?
I have, yes.
So tell us about your blog and why you set it up and what's your hope for it.
Okay. The blog is called Power of Three, Health and Wellbeing. I wanted to be able to put information together with regards to health, both physically and mentally, because although I've said earlier on I lost the weight, I have a confession, it all piled back on over the years. So I'm having my life lesson again, and maybe I'll do it right this time or map it out a different way. But basically the blog is a place where I can write about my own journey and help others. I'm not qualified medically, I'm not qualified as a trainer, but what I do have is guest bloggers that come on each month, and what I'm trying to do is to show my journey at the beginning, where I started off with my nutritional story and how food is an issue for me. Next month I'm going to be talking about the bankruptcy and coming towards the end of the payments and what the future holds with that. So it's just very much being in the moment with people, and not necessarily, I haven't got it all figured out. Even the blog isn't all figured out. And at this moment in time, I'm putting content together that even if someone just came across it and read it and thought, I know how you feel, or that resonates with me, then they can go to the people that can help. But it's just basically getting my story out there and helping as many people as I can, because I do believe in order to have full capacity as ourselves, we need to be both mentally and physically in alignment with ourselves. So that would be nutrition, mindset and movement. And by movement I mean the dreaded word, I hated exercise, so I didn't want it to be part of that. So I chose movement. I love to do yoga. That puts me right in my little happy place. So a yoga doing writing, that's where I'll be. And I hope one day that I will get together and do a yoga qualification. That's the big goal for me, sort of in the next 5 years, to kind of set myself up doing that. But I wanted to just be able to start, because I think we all have points where we just keep putting off because we don't feel good enough. We don't think we matter. We don't think our story is inspirational enough. But I'm proof on here, and everybody's proof, that all our stories matter. We all matter. Our journey matters. And to just help each other go along in our way. And I've also got an Instagram account where I put more of the quotation bits, and you get more of the day-to-day. And the blog is just a case of making it a larger part and filling it with information that can help. So if you are interested, if you log on to www.powerof3healthandwellbeing.com and let me know what you think, because there is comments, and if you want to email me privately, nothing is put on the blog that anybody doesn't want to. But if you do want to stay in touch, feel free and reach out.
Amazing. We'll put those links up in the podcast notes as always as well.
Thank you.
And the other thing I wanted to pick up on, just really quickly before I wrap this up, is you said a minute ago that you didn't know who you were. And I want to extend that and say you probably don't know who you are without this struggle, because that was definitely the case for me, and something that came up in my journaling, where I suddenly realized that I was afraid to get better. I was afraid to overcome it. And actually, financial anxiety is a huge part of my story too, and it's ongoing. And I didn't know who I would be if I wasn't struggling. I honestly, and some of the beliefs that came up, again, logically, I could look at it and go, but that's ridiculous. And yet I do believe, and yet I can say, yeah, no, but I do believe that. It's like, it's almost like I push to see how much I can struggle before I fall apart. And it's so strange that we're wired that way. But I would start to look at, who am I really? And obviously, you know, we don't need to struggle. We don't need to have all of this, what's the word? Like heavy energy all the time. Like maybe who we are these light, happy beings. And, you know, I like one of my beliefs was if I struggle, then I can relate to people better. So I almost had a belief that if I wasn't struggling anymore, I wouldn't be able to help people anymore. And that's so ridiculous. And yet that was a very, very big belief. If I'm honest, I probably still have a bit of that belief. I still feel like I need to put myself at the bottom of everything. And I'm all about, let's let everyone else rise up. Everyone else gets to have it, but not me. And that's the self-worth issue coming back again as well. But I would start to be playful with it. So, you know, you're not going to change beliefs that are rooted in your system overnight at the click of a finger. But you can do these exercises with a light-hearted manner where you say, okay, so just for the next 24 hours, if who I was someone who didn't need to struggle, and if who I was somebody who was massively inspiring and motivational and completely knew what she was doing, how would that look? Like then how would I act? What would I do? And just see what comes out of your imagination, because to get really woo-woo with it, I've been reading a little bit, I don't know a lot about it, but I've been reading about these parallel universes. So it's this idea that somewhere there is another Cheryl living your life, but without all of the shitty struggle that you feel like you're going through right now. And she's just loving life and flying, and she's probably already a yoga instructor. You know, it's almost like it's that future you. So an exercise I love to do, and this is actually we're going to go into this quite deeply in the Confidence Academy, which is the members club that's launching again very soon. And one of the exercises we're going to do in there is you will write out your dream in explicit detail. And then there's a visualization which gets you to the point where you're already that person, where you're already living that life, and then you do the exercise again. So let's say you just said your big goal is to become a certified yoga instructor. So in 5 years' time, let's just, for fun, just off the top of my head, let's say that already it's 5 years down the line. You're on my now world famous award-winning podcast, because this is my dream too. And we've been on Ellen. Okay, I'm getting carried away, but you know what I mean. But it's 5 years down the line. You've qualified as a yoga instructor. You're running yoga retreats around the world, online, in person. You're changing people's lives. Look at all of that. First of all, before I go any further, how much better do you think you will be as that yoga instructor, having been through what you've been through, understanding the emotional attachment to food and the fact that, you know, you can transform your body and that still might not fill the void. So there's this other piece. I just wanted to chuck that in there because that will explain completely why it came back around for you. It always had to be that way. You had to understand it on that level, the same way that I had to understand anxiety on this level. I've always built confidence, but until I lost my own, I couldn't really speak to people on that level. So you're going to be absolutely phenomenal. Just wanted to chuck that in. But we're there 5 years on from now. You've achieved this. You're this world-renowned yoga instructor. You have retreats all over the world. You're changing lives constantly. Now what's your dream? Like, now what do you want to do? Because I think we don't dream big enough. A lot of the time, we just don't want to struggle. A lot of the time, our dream is just, I just don't want to struggle anymore. But what if we can have so much more than that? So that I can see your little eyes lighting up because you're like, oh my God, I get to dream even bigger. Like, and I struggle with it sometimes. I'm there, I'm going, I don't know, I reckon I'd be quite happy. I don't think I'd have any goals, but obviously that isn't true. We always have a goal. We're always climbing a mountain, eyeing up the one behind it that's a little bit bigger and a little bit higher. So what would that be? And it's a really fun exercise. And then the thing is, that's the goal you aim for. Don't aim to just get by. Obviously, from an alignment perspective, it's important to align with what you feel is achievable, which is why we do it in these step-by-step ways. But every now and then, it's just really good fun to go, okay, well, let's just say I've achieved all of that and a million things more. Now what's my dream? Now what do I want? And it expands your mind. It's hard at first because you, like, from where you are now, it's like, don't know. Maybe another car, like another house. You know, it's very difficult. But the more you start to train yourself to do it, you're expanding your mind. You're expanding what you believe is truly possible for you. And it's like I say, you know, I've worked a lot with children over the years, and we've done things like exams. And I always say to them, whether you pass, fail, merit, whatever, doesn't matter, but aim for the distinction, aim for the top mark. It doesn't matter if you get it. It really doesn't. And this is the same thing. Have these huge goals. Don't be afraid to set them. It's not about setting a goal and then worrying about whether you're going to achieve it. But if you're aiming for that enormous goal in the distance, then you trample over everything else and your fear diminishes because it's just like, no, that's what I'm going for. Whereas if we just aim for the next thing that's just above our head, we'll get there. And then we'll be like, oh, okay, what now? You know, it's that expansion of the mind thing. But I don't know, it kind of floats my boat in case you hadn't noticed. So definitely give that a try. So what I'd like to do, as I said at the top of the podcast, is we're going to keep in touch with Cheryl, and obviously go and follow her blog, because I'm sure you'll be documenting on there your journey as you go. But what I'd really love to do is get you back on the podcast in maybe, if you've got a 12-week course, maybe in 6 weeks or so that you're halfway through and we can see how it is for you this time and the shifts that you're feeling. So just so we've got something to check back in on, where would you put yourself right now on a 0 to 10 scale in terms of either how happy you feel or how anxious you feel, depending on which way you want to go there? Kind of give us a number, and then we will check back in about 6 weeks' time and just say, you know, now where are you on that scale, so people can really see how you are feeling as a result of going through this CBT process.
Thank you very much for that, Lee. That's a fantastic idea. Happiness wise, if we do a 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely marvellous, I'd probably say I'm around about a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety levels are completely off the chart. So I'd probably say with that, 1 being worse, it would probably be around 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sort of like there's like a happy medium there, but it's like, as you said throughout the cast, it's just a case of I can't allow myself to be happy, and it feels like I have to be in the struggle to know what I'm doing, because if I don't have the struggle, I don't know what I've got.
Mm-hmm.
But the ultimate aim from this struggle is to actually find happiness, whatever form that may be. But it's like conflicting. It's like your little devil and your little angel going, pick me, pick me, pick me, and it's just like, which one are you going to pick? So I would actually go for those levels at the moment, but what I will do is keep an account of everything over the next 6 weeks and check back in with you, and let you know where I am, what's happened in those 6 weeks, and that would be really great, because it helped me to keep more of a track of it, and also I'll be able to tell the listeners a little bit more about what happens in face-to-face anxiety recovery, for want of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was the other thing I wanted to say? It just popped into my head just then. So you were saying about the levels, obviously, as you feel now, but on a scale of 1 to 10, having had this conversation and having kind of planted some of those seeds, how optimistic are you now feeling versus how you might have been feeling when you came on the call? Because I know we chatted before we started, and I know you were identifying as being at this point in, you were kind of on a downward spiral, or you were in a darker place than perhaps you have been in recent times. How optimistic are you now that this is something that you can certainly come out with new energy?
Definitely, the energy that you've given on this call has been absolutely fantastic. I've obviously been able to see you, and it's just the way that you put the words together, and you have such a unique way of having the different perspective on it and bringing in all the techniques that has worked for you and will help others, that I actually feel really energized from this. And I'm going to go back, and I've been jotting notes down as we've gone along, and to be perfectly honest, I would probably say I'm on an 8 out of 10. I'm not going to say 10 perfect, because I would be fibbing, but you've pushed me right up there, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you this evening and just have your help, and to be able to put this podcast together to help others who are in the thick of it now, and between us we can show people that although you're in the thick of it, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you just got to put one step in front of the other and just take each day as it comes, and get better. But everybody's journey is different, but you can do it.
Absolutely. And that sounds to me like the perfect megaphone message, which is what we always finish on. So it's just letting everybody know that that's exactly it. It's, you said it yourself, you don't have it all figured out. And I laughed to myself, because I was like, well, none of us do. Even when we think we figured it all out, we haven't. Like, there's always something that comes flying in, and we're like, oh, okay, no, that's not going to work. I don't think the meaning of life is to figure it out. I really don't. I think the meaning of life is to follow your path, to honor the journey. You mentioned earlier the devil and the angel on your shoulder. Part of my initial breakdown was that I was always giving my attention to the angel, and I was trying to shut out the devil, or the darkness, as I called it. I was very ashamed of that darkness. I didn't like it. I didn't want it. I wanted to be this positive ball of energy. And I always wanted to be like that. And I put massive pressure on myself to be that way. My transformation began when I actually allowed the darkness to sit up alongside the light. There's a Disney film actually called Inside Out. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen Inside Out, please watch it. Don't think to yourself, oh, it's Disney, it's for kids, it's not for me. Honest to God, that movie is frigging phenomenal, because it puts into very easy to understand terms how our brains actually work. Have you seen it, Cheryl? Do you know the movie I mean?
I know I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. But I must confess, I am a bit of a Disney fan.
Yes.
So I'll go and check that out. I love a good old Disney film.
It makes me cry every time, because it's basically, the premise of the film is they're living inside the head of this girl called Riley, who's like I think she's about 10 years old. She's a kid. And it shows from when she's born, and the minute she's born, this character comes forward called Joy. And Joy is the positive, like, but bursting full of energy. She's all lit up, and she's in control of the control panel, and she's the only emotion that baby has at that point. And then as the baby gets older, these other characters come in. So then you have anger. So, and then you see it play out. So when the baby's kind of losing it, anger is in control of the panel. And then you get fear. So when she becomes a toddler and she's running around the house, fear is the thing that stops her from tripping over the kettle lid and stuff like that. It's so clever how they do it. And then one of the emotions is, they have disgust. So when they try and feed her broccoli, disgust is there going, oh, it's broccoli. Oh my God, no. And doesn't let her have it. And then the other character is sadness. And the interesting thing is, throughout the whole film, the other characters are trying to keep sadness off the panel. They're like, you're not allowed to be in control of this, because they have a quota every day. They have to make happy memories, and the best memories become core memories. It's so clever. I can't recommend it enough. And you see how the core memories go into a bank, and then they affect how she thinks and how she acts and what she believes in her life. And sadness starts to touch some of the core memories, and she tinges them with sadness. And then things start to break down, and it looks like it's all going to go wrong. And, so all of the foundational beliefs that she had start to fall apart. And they're all going, oh my God, sadness, again, you've touched this memory, you mustn't touch it. We don't really know what sadness does. They keep drawing a little circle for her to stand in. They're like, you stand there, don't go near anything. And then there's a very pivotal moment in the film where you see Riley, the character, crying. I think she's disappointed. I think it's something to do with a hockey game or something. And she's very sad. But it's through that sadness that then she gets her strength, and she learns. And they all learn at that moment that sadness actually has just as much of a right to be there as the rest of them. And it always makes me cry, because it's like, it's so bloody beautiful. It's so amazing. And I think so many of us go through life trying to strive for the happy feelings, and we want to be positive. Of course we do. But we try and shut down these darker feelings. We try and shut out the sadness. We try and shut out the shame. We try and shut out anything we deem to be negative. And in doing that, we exhaust ourselves, because we are human beings with all of these emotions, and every single emotion has a place. And when you look at it that way, instead of coming from, if you woke up tomorrow riddled with anxiety, imagine they're all the characters in your head, and they're on your control panel. And so the sadness character in this film is so cute. She's this little blue girl, and she's so sad all the time. And she quite often just lies down and sticks her leg in the air to be dragged around, because she's just too sad. She can't even walk. Imagine that you have a little anxiety person in your head, and they're in control of the panel. Well, there's a reason they've got in control of that. So you start to feel a little bit bad for anxiety, because everyone tells it to piss off. Anxiety show, anxiety's in the wings, and he's watching, and he sees joy come forward, and everyone's like, yay, joy. And then he sees disgust come forward, and we're like, yay, disgust. That means I'm not going to eat the things I don't want to eat. And fear steps forward, and we're like, yeah, fear, you keep me safe, awesome. Anxiety steps forward, or sadness steps forward, and we're like, piss off. We don't want you. And they're like that. Oh, why don't I matter? So I think, start to look at it a bit different when your anxiety shows up. Instead of going, oh, piss off anxiety, be like, all right, dude, come on, join the party. Why are you here? What have you got for me? Because quite a lot, bless him, anxiety gets things wrong a lot of the time. And your anxiety will show up when it didn't need to. You are in control of that. You get to say, no, you know what? I've looked around. I feel kind of safe. You didn't need to show up, but thank you. I honour you. I respect you. You're welcome at my party, but get off the control panel, because right now there's no reason for it. If you're in a cage full of tigers, friggin' show up all you like. Like, I need to know that I'm not okay, you know? So I don't even know what that rant was about, but definitely check out Inside Out. It's amazing.
I promise I will.
And it's Disney anyway. Who doesn't love a bit of Disney in their life?
I love Disney. I promise what I'll do is I'll get a hold of that film and I'll watch it before we have our next session, and I'll let you know, because from that I'm just like beaming from ear to ear, and I'm thinking I really need that film in my life.
Oh, it's brilliant. There's even a bit where it's her imaginary friend. I think he's called Bing Bong. He's this clown from when she was a kid, and he's kind of got lost in the wilderness because she doesn't remember him anymore. And there's even they've even got the memory bank. They go to the memory bank with all of her memories, and then there's this deep dark pit, which is the subconscious, which are all the things that they're in there, but she doesn't kind of consciously draw from anymore. It's friggin' brilliant. In fact, I need to watch it again. It's been a while, but definitely watch that, and definitely keep us informed with how you're going.
I will do, I promise.
And I know we kind of covered it, but just to finish us off really, really nicely, and maybe just repeat what you said already, but I think it's so important. To everybody listening who resonates with you on any level, or in the very least can just say that right now they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe they are in this very deep, dark place where it all just seems very all-consuming. What do you want those people to know? What would your inspirational message to them be?
My inspirational message will be, where you are right now isn't where you're always going to be. You will find a way. There is light at the end of the tunnel. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow. It'll be there when you're ready to show up and just take that step. So just take that step, whether it's a telephone call, whether it's a text message to somebody. Just do it when you're ready and just move forward, but just know that you have it within you. We all have, and we're all here to support you. If you need anything, reach out. Lily's brilliant. I'm here if you need anything, and we're in it together.
Absolutely. We're all in this together. See, you made me sing again. She's waving her arms. She's having a party up in there. I love it. I'm not even sorry for singing. I don't know why I said sorry, because I'm not. I'm never sorry for singing. It's required all the time, I think. Awesome. Cheryl, thank you so much for being with us. And I know this was a long one, but I think there was so much to cover. We will really, really look forward to checking back in with you and seeing where you're at on your own journey. We will put a link to your blog posts as well. As I said, if you have been moved by any of this, if you have a message, even a message of support for Cheryl, you can see she's on this journey. She's right there with you. So shoot her a line, like let her know that you've got her back and that she's not on her own either. And we'll all pull together and we'll all get through this. And so once again, thank you for being on here. We will catch up with you again. And to everybody listening, just before I go, I just want to let you know that the Confidence Academy will shortly be opening its doors for enrollment. So this is a members program, like a membership site where you will pay a very low monthly fee for ongoing training, but it's slightly different in that the first 12 weeks will be a program that we will go through together. So it will be a very focused live program for the first 12 weeks. And then after that, there will be various guest experts coming in with different techniques, different things you can try. There will be lots of live Q&A calls. There'll be lots of accountability, lots of support from me, and it's all ongoing. And the best bit is you get access to all of the information, the workshops, the downloads, the PDFs, everything. As long as you're a member, you have access to all of it for as long as you need it. You can download it onto your devices as well. So if you want to go and listen offline, you can. And the awesome thing about it is we will keep adding to it. And there's actually going to be a training vault as well. So the way I've designed this is it's a 12-week program we'll go through with fundamental steps. And then from the training vault, you can add on anything additional that you feel you might need. So we might talk about a technique, for example, like EFT or something like that. And if you feel like that really works for you and you love it, there will be additional resources you can go and download to add to your training. So you kind of build your program as you go. So it's hugely exciting. I've massively procrastinated on this. Even now I procrastinate. And even though I've told people it's coming, we're all dealing with this same thing of like, oh, who am I to do this? Like, can I even put this out there? But I've told you all now. There's 36,000 of you listening. So if not more, so kind of have to do it now. It's out there. If you'd like more information, if you go to my site, www.lilybadcock.com, you'll see on the front page there's a banner saying the Confidence Academy, and there is a link that you can click just to get on the waiting list for now. So that will just add you to the mailing list. You will get updates, you'll get information to find out if it's for you. And if it is for you, you'll be able to enroll. I'm going to open enrollment at the beginning of March. And then the actual program is going to start on the 5th of April. So we've still got plenty of time to get everybody on board. It's all about the community, the accountability, lifting each other up, and getting in the people who have walked the path that you're on to show you the way. It's like we're going to shine a torchlight. There is a saying that you don't have to see the whole staircase, but if you're like me, you kind of want to see the whole staircase. So these guest experts are going to at least let you see a few more steps than you can probably see on your own. So if you want information about that, follow the links. Again, all in the podcast notes. But for now, massive thank you once again to Cheryl for being here, and we will check back in with you very, very soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Lily.
Awesome stuff. And to everyone listening, you can say it along with me now. You must know it by now. Remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it. And I'll be back really soon. Massive love. Bye-bye.
And that's us done for another episode. I hope you're now feeling uplifted, inspired and motivated, and ready to start making those positive changes starting today. If so, you can connect with me and my guest experts over in the Confidence Academy Facebook group. We will support you and cheer you on every step of the way and help to hold you accountable as you create your epic life. You will find all of the relevant links in the podcast notes. And if you love this podcast series and you'd like to support it further, then please visit www.patreon.com and find out how you can score some additional training and resources by becoming a patron of the show. Your support means I can dedicate more time to finding the very best experts to share their valuable knowledge and stories. You can support the show from as little as $1 a month, so do please click the link if you can help. Thank you so much for listening, and if you have any feedback for the show or suggestions about future topics you'd like me to cover, please get in touch. In the meantime, I'll be back soon with another new episode and another amazing guest expert. But until then, look after yourself, dream big and live bigger. And remember, confidence is yours as soon as you choose it.